New Super Mario Bros. Wii. If you're one of those game collectors who's really particular about case uniformity on your shelf, you're probably already all too familiar with this game, and it's, some might say, obnoxious Mario Red box. Interesting tidbit, unless you happen to own an elusive white copy of the Wii game, every new Super Mario Bros. Game in your collection is guaranteed to be in a differently colored box, including the standalone physical release of New Super Luigi U, which I unfortunately don't own. This video has been a long time coming. If you've spent any significant amount of time on my channel in the past 5 months, really any time at all, then there's a pretty good chance you've at least seen this video. It's been my channel trailer since the day it came out, and to be honest, it's still one of my favorite videos that I've made so far. Of course, riding high off how much fun I had with that episode, I was eager to dive right into the next game in the series, New Super Mario Bros. Wii. But believe it or not, this game fought back hard. I feel like before we can get into that though, I need to set up some context. If you watch my video on New Super Mario Bros. DS, you'll know that its follow-up had some absolutely massive shoes to fill. I adore pretty much everything about that game. NSMB Wii presents itself nearly identically to its predecessor. This is standard 2D Mario fun back on a home console for the first time since the Super Nintendo. As Mario, you'll once again have to platform your way through 8 worlds, stomping on bad guys and grabbing flagpoles. This game technically uses the same art style from DS. I'm a bit of an oddball. I absolutely loved the way the original DS graphics looked blown up onto a big screen. It just had so much personality, which I feel the Wii game somewhat lacks. Honestly, the art direction feels pretty generic. I mean, yeah, that's definitely Mario, but there's just something about this art style that I never quite could get behind. It feels very flat and uninspired. This doesn't seem particularly egregious yet. I actually think the lower resolution helps to mask it for the most part, and while obviously I'm a pixel purist and opted to play the game through HDMI on the Wii U, I did test it out via component on the Wii, and I think most people might agree this may be a better look for the game. Of course, being a new Super Mario Bros. Game, you can be sure to expect some of the tightest platforming control the industry has to offer. Mario feels exactly the same as he did in the previous entry, and I wouldn't change it for the world. He controls so well in these games. Triple jumps, wall jumps, bouncing off enemies, they all feel perfect. Hey, it even looks like they added on to Mario's mobility even further. A move called the spin jump. It's performed by... Okay, see, here's the thing. This game was released on the Wii. Now, listen, I don't have any kind of problem with the Wii as a console. If you count the one that comes baked into every Wii U, I own 3. But you all know, at the end of the day, the Wii was known for one thing, and that's motion controls. I detest motion controls. I hate most things that even resemble motion controls. I am so dedicated to traditional digital button controls that I think the use of analog triggers in controllers and games is overstepping. And it's not that I hate motion controls across the board as a concept. I enjoy a hearty round of the milking minigame in 1-2 Switch at least twice a week. It's that I cannot stand when a game that would otherwise be perfectly playable with a traditional control scheme implements a single mechanic that has you up and out of your seat swinging your controller around like a madman. Okay, yes, jump, jump. That's why I put off playing this game for so long. I simply could not get past the motion controls. Specifically, when I first started my initial playthrough, I vastly overestimated the actual impact these mechanics would have on gameplay. As such, I quickly ruled out the standard control scheme as an option, instead deciding to play with the Wiimote and Nunchuck, a layout that trades maybe a 50% increase in ease of motion control execution for playing a precision 2D platformer with an analog stick. Upon returning to the game, though, I actually gave the Wiimote a fair shake, pun intended, and I discovered that this game almost never actually asks you to do the spin jump during fast-paced action. Pretty much every use of motion controls is relegated to slower moments, and even those rarely come up. At the end of the day, I still don't like shaking the Wiimote, but I learned to live with it. Let's talk level design. NSMB Wii features some of the strongest level design I've experienced in a 2D platformer to date. As would soon be tradition in the new Super Mario Bros. Series, Wii opts to reuse world themes from the first game, but to be honest, I feel like they do a much better job with consistent theming within the worlds than they did in the first game. We also have on offer some pretty stellar one-off stages, a lot of which actually find a way to implement motion controls into their design in an interesting and fun way that couldn't be done without the use of motion controls. You have this one level where you tilt the Wiimote and swing Mario around on an elevator, or this level where you do the same thing to snap platforms from one position to the other. Ooh, or this airship level where you get to pretend you accidentally stuck your finger in a light fixture to lower sections of the stage. Star coins, of course, make a reappearance, and it is just as satisfying to collect all of them in a given level as it was in the first game. They still have the issue of being more annoying to get than difficult at times, but this game is quite a bit harder than the first one anyway, so I think they blend in a bit better. Just like the first game, this game features 2 boss fights per world, which is great, or at least it would be if they weren't the most painfully average and underwhelming boss fights in the history of Mario. The first game had a new and unique boss fight for every world. They were all really interesting and had awesome designs. The boss fights were some of my favorite parts of the entire experience. Meanwhile, this game just offers 16 reskins of the exact same fight in the form of the Koopalings. Talk about disappointing. Hey, at least the end boss here is really good. When you finally manage to complete the game, you gain access to World 9, a secret world starring, man, I'm on a roll with these puns today, 8 levels to correspond with the 8 previous worlds. Once you collect every star coin in a particular world, you unlock the corresponding World 9 level, an extra hard stage meant to revisit all of the challenges you overcame in that world. World 9 is a fantastic completion bonus. The levels don't hold any punches, they're straight up really hard, but I had an absolute blast completing them. Before we wrap things up here, I would like to cover a couple more miscellaneous complaints I had about the game that I couldn't quite fit in anywhere else. The returning power-up inventory from previous games is just straight up not as useful as the power-up reserve that you could use at any time on the DS. World 5 and 7 are no longer secret worlds and are instead simply part of the main game. This removes the hilariously fun challenge of beating bosses as Mini Mario and makes progression less interesting. The theming for World 8, while still good, didn't quite live up to the nearly unattainable heights set by the first game. This level in World 8 looks like it's going to be a rehash of one of my favorite stages from the DS, the one that wraps around itself, but it isn't. This game was designed by cowards. And lastly, if you want the stars on your save profile to sparkle, you aren't allowed to ever die more than 8 times in a row on any single given level. At no point is this mechanic explained to you, nor are these sparkly stars ever even mentioned. Yeah, who needs caffeine when you have the crippling anxiety that can only be produced by not unlocking the sparkly stars in New Super Mario Bros. Wii?
What's the point?
I think it's safe to say that mechanically, NSMB Wii is an absolutely phenomenal game, but for me, it doesn't quite manage to live up to the magic of the original. Sure, on a technical level, this game may be near perfect, but it seems to be lacking that extra layer of love and creativity that the first game was just bursting at the seams with. Like, there are a lot of great mechanics, but most of them were already in DS, and pretty much everything they did decide to change, changed for, at worst, the worst, and at best, the bland. With that said, I still had a really good time with it, plus being on the Wii gives this game the ability to offer something that the DS simply couldn't: 4-player simultaneous co-op. I unfortunately wasn't really able to put this game through its paces since it's in-person only, but if it's anything like the experience I've had with co-op in Mario in the past, it's more than likely a hectic good time to break out at any gathering. NSMB DS will always be my favorite. I honestly don't foresee that changing at any time in the near future. It really is head of the class when it comes to innovation, new ideas, theming, boss fights, art direction, the whole package. However, if you've already played the first game and are looking to get your next NSMB fix, don't have access to the hardware you need to play the first game, or just looking for a slightly more difficult Mario adventure, New Super Mario Bros. Wii is absolutely the game for you, and any time spent playing it is certainly time well spent. I know you have a Wii that you haven't booted up for the better part of a decade laying around somewhere. Think you don't? Check under your pillow, you'd be surprised. Plug it in, boot it up, and give New Super Mario Bros. Wii a shot. You won't regret it. Phew, Hopefully this wasn't too long-winded for you. This episode has been in production for a long time, and I really wanted to make sure this game got the full breakdown it deserves. If you made it to the end, that obviously means you didn't hate it, so why not consider dropping a sub? It's free and it's a huge help. Of course, if you want to go the extra mile, you can always like the video, share it around with anyone you think might enjoy it, follow me on social media, or join my Discord server, all linked down below. This has been New Super Mario Bros. Wii. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, thanks for watching.